Hey, this is Zachlog the Great. Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press in 1436. I think it's truly difficult for most of us to imagine how much this invention changed our world. Before the printing press, making a new copy of an entire book would take a full year of work for a skilled craftsman. That's one book. After Gutenberg's invention, they were able to mass produce books in a way never before possible. It was a world shaking advance in the dissemination and preservation of knowledge. I don't know quite when you'd choose to date it because the important developments were not an all at once event but steady progression over a few decades, but I think the creation of the internet might be looked back on as a similarly world shaking event 600 years from now. But I'm not sure it's all for the best. Just to be clear, I'm not talking right now about the type of content, the kind of ideas or images propagated online. That's another discussion entirely. I said Gutenberg's printing press was a world-shaking advance in the dissemination and preservation of knowledge. Now, the internet today is fantastic at wide, high-speed dissemination of information. Is this good or bad? That's a conversation for another day. But it appears to me the internet is an absolute disaster for the long-term preservation of knowledge. I started thinking about this when I was looking at a website I've gotten several interesting recipes from. I like to cook, and I especially like kind of oddball recipes. I noticed that the front page of the site had not changed in literally years, and I realize this means that site is quite likely to just vanish any day now. So I searched and I found a program that's supposed to download and create an offline version of a site for you. I tried running the program and it was a complete failure. I got something that had the basic layout of the site, but I couldn't actually read any of the recipes. They just weren't there. I asked a friend of mine who's a programmer, and he said he'd see what he could do. Several days later, he was able to create a text file archiving all of the recipes. He said that it was a lot more difficult than he expected, and he wasn't surprised my program couldn't handle it. The site used some very odd formatting that he had to work around, and actually asked a friend to help him sort out. And this is just one tiny example of an enormous potential problem. Let's assume that maintaining electricity is not a problem into the distant future. Let's assume that keeping working computers is not a problem into the distant future. Let's assume that maintaining a working computer network is not a problem into the distant future. Even if you assume all of that, and by the way, every point in that chain is a weak link. But even if you assume all of that persists just fine, you still have a massive problem to overcome, which is file formats and programming languages. You literally cannot run programs written for PCs just 30 years ago on a computer today without special programs specifically written to emulate the older machines. That's just 30 years. That's less than half a human lifetime. In contrast, the oldest written text we still have in legible form is believed to be 4,000 years old. We can reliably produce printed books today which, barring disaster, are expected to last between 200 and 300 years. But a computer program written during my lifetime needs special software to run on a current model PC. And like I said, this is just the last step in the process, just computers understanding and being able to present the data. Behind that, we have a computer network, the computers themselves, and the electricity to run all of it. The things I've talked about here are just the tip of the iceberg. I suspect someone more knowledgeable about the subject than I could write an entire book on this problem. Using the internet to share information across the world works great. Using it to preserve knowledge across time, that looks like an amazingly dodgy proposition to me. God be with you.